Here's something nobody tells you when you're thinking about buying your first rental property. You're going to look at somewhere between 25 and 60 properties before you find one that actually makes sense. And 95% of the properties you see won't cash flow at all, which means buying them would be a terrible financial decision no matter what some real estate guru on YouTube tells you. My name is Rob, and I've spent years figuring out the rental property game so you don't have to learn everything through expensive mistakes. If you want the real step-by-step process that actually works, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if you're serious about building wealth through real estate. Rental properties can be an incredible wealth-building tool, but they're not passive income and they're not easy money. The people who make money are patient, run the numbers on everything, and don't get emotional. The people who lose money buy properties that don't cash flow because they convince themselves appreciation will save them. Everything I'm about to tell you requires discipline and patience that most people don't have. Let's start with money. For investment properties, you need 15% to 20% down. For every $100,000 the property costs, you need $15,000 to $20,000 in cash. On a $400,000 property, that's $60,000 to $80,000 down, plus closing costs and renovation money. If you don't have it yet, your first step is saving money, not looking at properties. Step 1 is fixing your credit score. You need above 700, preferably 740 or higher. For the best rates, you need 760 or above. The difference between a 6% and 7% interest rate on a $320,000 loan is about $200 per month. That's $2,400 per year. On a rental where you're trying to make $500 to $600 monthly cash flow, an extra $200 in interest could mean the difference between profit and loss every single month. If your score is at 650 or 680, fix that first. Pay down credit cards, dispute errors, set up automatic payments. Get above 740 before you seriously look at properties. Step 2 is tax returns. Lenders want your last 2 years and they'll average your income. If you're self-employed and aggressive with deductions, that's great for taxes but terrible for getting a mortgage. If you're planning to buy in the next year or two, be strategic. Maybe don't write off absolutely everything. Show a little more income. You'll pay more in taxes short term, but it might let you qualify for a loan that makes you money for 30 years. You'll also need 2 to 6 months of bank statements showing you have the money and it's been there a while, not deposited yesterday. Step 3, talk to a lender before you start looking at properties. Get pre-qualified so you know exactly what you can afford. Nothing is worse than falling in love with a property and then finding out you don't qualify for the loan. When you first talk to a lender, don't let them run your credit right away. Just tell them your score. Save the credit check for when you're making an offer. Have all your paperwork ready. Tax returns, bank statements, pay stubs. When you find a property you want, you need to move fast. Having everything organized means quick approval and stronger offers. Step 4 is looking at properties, and this is where most people screw up. They look at 5 or 10 places, find one they like, and make an offer. Don't. You need to see 25, 50, maybe 60 properties before making an offer. You need to understand the market. Know what $300,000 buys versus $350,000 versus $400,000. Develop an eye for what's overpriced and what's a potential deal. Look at stuff 15% above your budget too, just for comparison. If your budget is $300,000, look at some $350,000 properties. This helps you understand what you're giving up and whether it's worth saving more. Avoid out-of-state properties unless you have experience and local connections. Start local where you can drive to your property when problems happen. Avoid condos because HOA fees kill cash flow. Stick with single-family homes or 2 to 4 unit properties. Target median price range or slightly below. Solid middle-class neighborhoods where people want to live. Step 5 is calculating cash flow. This is the most important step and the one most people screw up. Here's the brutal truth: 95% to 98% of properties on the market don't actually cash flow. Don't buy properties that don't cash flow, ever. Let me show you real numbers. Say you're looking at a $400,000 property, putting 20% down, financing $320,000. At 7% interest, your mortgage is about $1,170 per month. Then property taxes, maybe $400 monthly. Insurance, $100 to $150. Maintenance budget, $200. Vacancy allowance, $150. Total expenses, about $20,600 to $20,700 per month. You need to rent this for at least $3,200 to $30,300 to have $600 in positive cash flow. And $600 monthly is the minimum you should accept. Anything less, and you're taking too much risk for too little reward. Will a $400,000 property rent for $3,200 monthly in your market? Probably not. This is why most properties don't work. But this is also why you look at dozens of properties. You're searching for the rare one where the numbers actually make sense. Never buy a property with negative cash flow where you're subsidizing the mortgage from your pocket. I don't care what anyone says about appreciation or tax benefits. If it doesn't cash flow, don't buy it. Step 6 is cosmetic fixer-uppers, not major structural issues like roofs, foundations, or electrical rewiring. Those are expensive and can spiral out of control. You want cosmetic work, old kitchens, ugly bathrooms, bad flooring, terrible paint, overgrown landscaping. These you can fix relatively cheaply and significantly increase rent. Example, a property rents for $2,800 monthly in current condition. Numbers don't work. But the kitchen is from 1985 and bathrooms are disgusting. You spend $30,000 updating kitchen, bathrooms, and flooring. Now it rents for $3,400 instead of $2,800. That's an extra $600 monthly or $7,200 yearly, for a one-time $30,000 investment. That's a 24% annual return, and it turned a non-cash flowing property into one that does. For rentals, create durable, functional spaces that can handle tenant abuse. Use laminate flooring instead of hardwood because it's cheaper and nearly as durable. Use tile in bathrooms because it's almost indestructible. Avoid carpet because it gets disgusting and needs replacing every few years. Your tenants are not going to baby your property, so build it accordingly. Use decent countertops, not expensive ones. Granite is fine. You don't need quartz or marble. Tenants will damage stuff, guaranteed, so don't use materials that cost a fortune to replace. The goal is creating a property that looks good enough to command top rent, but is built tough enough to survive actual tenants living there. Get 3 bids from contractors with at least 4 stars on Yelp. Don't just take the lowest bid, look at reviews, talk to the contractors, make sure they're actually competent and have experience with rental properties. And here's a rule that has never failed me. Whatever the contractor says it'll cost and however long they say it'll take, add 20% to both numbers. Projects always run over budget and schedule. Always. If they say 3 weeks and $25,000, plan for 4 weeks and $30,000. When choosing materials, think about what happens when something breaks. Laminate flooring damaged in one spot, replace that plank. Hardwood gets damaged, now you're refinishing the entire floor. Simple repairs matter in rental properties because you'll be doing them. Avoid properties next to freeways. The noise kills rental appeal and resale value. Don't buy on busy streets with traffic lights where people are constantly driving by. Don't buy properties that back up to large apartment complexes or commercial buildings. These all hurt both rental appeal and what you can sell for later. You want quiet residential neighborhoods that feel safe. That's what good tenants want and what future buyers want. Step 7 is making offers. Work with a competent real estate agent. Interview a few first. Ask about their experience with investment properties specifically. Here's a test. Send them a text with a question about a property. Do they respond immediately or take 3 hours? If they're slow during the honeymoon phase when they're trying to get your business, they'll be even slower after you've signed with them. When you make offers, don't get emotional. This is business. The numbers either work or they don't. Stick to what makes sense financially. You might need to make offers on 10 properties before one gets accepted, and that's fine. Patience wins this game. Most people don't have patience. They want to buy something now. But the people who make money in real estate wait for actual deals instead of buying something because they're tired of looking. Don't be afraid to make low offers. Every property is worth the right price. If it's listed at $450,000 but only cash flows at $380,000, offer $380,000. The seller might say no, but they might come back with a counteroffer. You'll never know if you don't ask. The worst thing that happens is they reject your offer and you move on to the next property. Step 8 is inspections, and this is where you turn the process into a second round of negotiation. Inspect everything: roof, electrical, plumbing, mold, foundation, sewer line, everything. Even brand new construction has issues. Every property you inspect will have problems. That's normal. What matters is calculating how much those problems cost to fix and either asking the seller to fix them or asking for credits that reduce your purchase price. Some sellers list properties as is and claim they won't do any repairs. That's fine. You can still ask for credits after the inspection. As is doesn't mean you can't negotiate. It just means they probably won't physically fix anything, but they might reduce the price to keep the deal together. Use your inspection reports to your advantage. If the roof has 5 years of life left, that's a $15,000 replacement coming up. Ask for a credit. If the HVAC system is old and making weird noises, ask for a credit. The worst they can say is no, but you'd be surprised how often sellers agree to credits because they don't want to put the property back on the market and start over. Step 9 is closing costs. Expect to pay about 1% of the purchase price in various fees. On a $400,000 property, that's roughly $4,000. Title insurance, escrow fees, recording fees, all that stuff adds up. Some of this can sometimes be negotiated with the seller, but budget for paying it yourself so you're not surprised when you see the final closing statement. Step 10 is executing renovations if your property needs them. Start immediately after closing. Every day the property sits empty is money you're losing. If you're making $600 per month in cash flow, every month of renovation delays costs you $600. Be on site every single day if possible. I'm serious about this. Show up randomly at different times to make sure your contractors are actually there working. Contractors overbook themselves. They're juggling multiple projects at once, and they prioritize the clients who are most present and most persistent. Be that client. If you disappear and just assume everything is getting done on schedule, your project will drag on forever while your contractor works on other jobs where the owners are being more demanding. Take progress photos every day. Keep a detailed timeline of what's supposed to happen when. If your contractor says they'll finish the kitchen by Friday and Friday comes with no kitchen, you need to know that and address it immediately. The squeaky wheel gets the grease, and in construction, that's absolutely true. Step 11 is renting the property, and the key to getting top dollar is professional photos. Don't take pictures with your iPhone where everything looks dim and distorted. Hire a real estate photographer. It costs around $150, and it's the best $150 you'll spend. Good photos mean you can charge more rent and fill the vacancy faster because your listing stands out from all the terrible photos other landlords post. List the property everywhere: Craigslist, apartments.com, Zillow, Trulia, Redfin, the MLS if your agent can get it on there. Cast a wide net. The more places your property is listed, the more potential tenants will see it. Respond to inquiries immediately. If someone contacts you at 8 p.m., respond at 8 p.m. The first landlord to respond often gets the best tenants because good tenants are applying to multiple places and they'll move forward with whoever gets back to them first. Screen everyone thoroughly. Credit checks, background checks, employment verification, previous landlord references. Call those previous landlords and ask specific questions. Did they pay rent on time? Did they cause any damage? Would you rent to them again? Don't skip these steps because you're desperate to fill the vacancy. A bad tenant costs way more than a few extra weeks of vacancy. Step 12 is scaling up. Keep your first property for 12 to 18 months. Learn what it's actually like to be a landlord. Deal with maintenance calls, collect rent, handle tenant issues. Get good at this before buying a second property. While learning, save for your next down payment. Buy one property every 2 years, and you could own 5 duplexes, 10 rental units in 10 years. After 30 years, when mortgages are paid off, 10 units throwing off $2,000 each is $20,000 monthly retirement income. That's real wealth building, not get-rich-quick schemes. But you start with one property that makes financial sense. Here's the philosophy. Every property cash flows at the right price, every single one. The question is whether the seller will sell at that price. This means you can't be afraid of low offers. You can't get emotionally attached. You have to walk away from deals that don't work even after 6 months of looking. Patience is the most valuable skill in real estate. Good deals are rare, great deals rarer. but they exist. If you're patient, disciplined, and stick to your numbers, you'll find them. The people who fail get impatient and buy something that doesn't cash flow just because they're tired of looking. Focus on cash flow, not appreciation. If the property makes money monthly from day one, appreciation is a bonus. But if you're counting on appreciation to make a losing property work, you're not investing, you're speculating. And speculation is how people lose money in real estate. Rental properties aren't passive income, they're active income that becomes more passive over time as your systems improve and properties pay down. But if you follow these steps, if you're patient, if you run numbers on everything and only buy properties that cash flow, you can build serious wealth. The key is starting with one good property instead of rushing into a bad deal. Look at dozens of properties, run the numbers on all of them. Wait for a deal that makes sense. Your future self will thank you when you're collecting rent checks on properties that have made you money for 20 years. So there it is, the real process for your first rental property, not the Instagram guru version, the actual version that works. Now stop watching videos and start looking at properties, because the only way to get good at this is to actually do it.